Here's a list of 5 haunted houses in the UK. Stick around for number 1. It won't disappoint. Blickling Hall, Aylsham, Norfolk. This vast estate and garden located near Aylsham in Norfolk is the birthplace of Anne Boleyn, the unfortunate second wife of King Henry VIII. She was beheaded in 1536. Not surprisingly, the ghosts that haunt Blickling Hall have to do with her and her history. As legend has it, every year on the 19th of May, the anniversary of her execution, her headless ghost rides up to the castle in a carriage drawn by a headless horseman with her severed head in his lap. It all vanishes at dawn. Another resident ghost is her father, Sir Thomas, who was punished for not having taken enough action to prevent her death and had to cross 12 bridges before the cock crowed. He never achieved the feat. Finally, there are the less ghoulish spirits of Sir John Fastolf, who was the inspiration for Shakespeare's Falstaff, and the death groans of Sir Henry Hobart. Are you brave enough to see for yourself? Then why not visit Blickling Hall in the Great Gardens? Number 50 Berkeley Square is an elegant townhouse located in one of London's most desirable places, Berkeley Square in Mayfair. The 4-story mansion, which is now the location of antique booksellers, Maggs Brothers, and once was the home of former Prime Minister George Canning, harbors a deadly secret. It all started in 1859, when one Thomas Myers moved in, determined to make it a home for his fiancée. However, she jilted him, and he became a recluse, locking himself away in the attic and only leaving at night by candlelight. Eventually, he went mad and died. Since then, several people who stayed in the attic have died of fear, among them one Captain Kentfield, who reportedly heard a gunshot and a terrible scream one night and was found dead on the floor the next day, his face twisted in terror. Other victims were a maid, who also heard screams and saw a dense brown mist moving around, and a pair of sailors, who broke in and were surprised by a floating creature with a wide-open mouth as they jumped in fright out of the window to their deaths. The latest occurrence dates to 2001, when a house cleaner felt a presence and another employee saw the brown mist. Felbrigg Hall, Norfolk. Norfolk seems to have its fair share of haunted houses. This beautiful estate and garden were first built in Tudor times and features an important library where the ghost story comes into play. William Wyndham III inherited Felbrigg Hall in 1749. He was an avid book lover and reader. In 1808, a fire broke out in a friend's library in London, and Wyndham couldn't bear the thought of precious books being consumed by flames, so he went and rescued as many volumes as he could. He was badly burned in the attempt and died a few weeks later. But his ghost is seen still sitting in his library, reading. The irony is that his ghost will only appear if a certain combination of books is laid out on his library table. Here you have a benevolent, book-loving ghost. Visit him at Felbrigg Hall. Borley Rectory, located in the village of Borley, Essex, has long held the title of Britain's most haunted house. The imposing Gothic-style mansion, built in 1862, became the subject of many chilling tales and supernatural investigations before its eventual destruction by fire in 1939. The legends surrounding Borley Rectory date back to before its construction. Local tales suggest the site was cursed due to a 13th-century monastery. One story claims a monk and a nun were caught trying to elope from nearby religious establishments. They were supposedly punished, with the monk being executed and the nun bricked up alive within her convent's walls. Their spirits are among those alleged to haunt the rectory grounds. The Phantom Coach. Locals often reported seeing a ghostly horse-drawn carriage driven by 2 headless horsemen around the property. The writing on the wall. Residents of the rectory reported seeing cryptic messages scribbled on the walls, with one famous message pleading, "Marianne, please help me." The nun's apparition. Many witnesses claimed to see the spirit of a nun wandering the gardens during dusk, appearing forlorn and lost. Harry Price, a renowned paranormal investigator of his time, took particular interest in Borley Rectory. He conducted numerous investigations during the 1920s and 1930s, documenting a wide range of phenomena. Price's books on the subject brought national attention to the rectory, but also garnered criticism. Some accused him of exaggeration or outright fabrication, while others believed he provided genuine evidence of the supernatural. Tragically, in 1939, the rectory was severely damaged by a fire, believed to have been accidentally started by the owner at the time. Though it was left in ruins, the legends persisted, with some claiming paranormal activities increased after the fire. The remains of the rectory were demolished in 1944. Houses now sit on the site where Borley Rectory once stood. It isn't known if the hauntings still occur. Paranormal investigators still show up in Borley, hoping to catch a glimpse of the nun or the phantom coach pass by. But the residents just want to go about their business and be left alone. Our next house isn't a 17th century mansion with beautiful gardens, or even a stately home owned by kings and queens or prime ministers. What sets this next house apart from the rest is, it's just an unassuming 3-bed semi-detached property on a housing estate in northern England. 30 East Drive is infamous for being home to Europe's most violent poltergeist. This property has seen many people leave in terror. As this is deemed one of the most haunted houses in Britain, it has many similarities to the infamous Enfield haunting. The film, When the Lights Went Out, was made based purely on the terrifying story of the Pritchard family that lived in this house, and there has been numerous newspaper reports that can be accessed on social media. It has also been widely investigated by many paranormal teams such as Most Haunted and Paranormal Lockdown have documented its malevolent activity. It is believed that this property is haunted by a malevolent poltergeist known as the Black Monk of Pontefract, also affectionately known as Fred. Despite attempts to bless this house, there are still paranormal teams reporting objects being thrown or moving in front of their eyes, dark shadows lurking, doors opening, and strange sounds are heard when no one is around. John, Joe, Philip, 15, and Diane, 12, Pritchard, moved into number 30 East Drive, Pontefract, in August 1966. Almost immediately, during the hot summer bank holiday, Philip and his grandmother first witnessed a baffling phenomenon. A fine layer of chalk-like dust falling not from the ceiling, but from a level below head height. In an effort to clean up before Philip's holidaying parents returned, Mrs. Kelly, Philip's aunt, who had been fetched by her mother to observe the falling dust, went to the kitchen for some cleaning implements, whereupon she slipped on a pool of water that had mysteriously appeared. Her efforts to mop up the water were thwarted by more pools appearing on the linoleum in front of her and Philip's very eyes. This was the beginning of several years of incredible, inexplicable events, green foam appearing from taps and toilet, even after the water was turned off. The tea dispenser being activated, resulting in all the dried tea cascading onto the work surface, lights being turned off and on, plants leaping out of their pots and landing on the stairs, cupboards shaking violently, photographs being slashed with a sharp knife, and an endless list of levitating and thrown objects, including a solid oak sideboard. Dubbed Mr. Nobody by the local press in 1968, the family preferred to refer to the poltergeist simply as Fred, perhaps as a way of normalizing it, as no number of initiatives could persuade the entity to leave the family in peace and house-proud. Mother Jean refused to be terrorized out of her house by an entity. Exorcisms were met with indignation. Walls would seep holy water, faces were slapped, people were shoved down the stairs, and Fred's hands would appear from nowhere and conduct the Christian songs aimed at shooing him off. In fact, many of Fred's antics were both amazing and often highly amusing, like when he calmly poured an entire jug of milk he removed from the fridge over a skeptical aunt, leaving the kids in stitches. Ordinarily, poltergeists aren't known for causing grievous bodily harm, and although Fred caused a few bruises and scrapes and a lot of heart-stopping scares, in particular to Diane, seemingly the focus of the haunting, it is rare for a poltergeist to become excessively violent and cause physical harm. But in the case of Fred, that indeed became the case. Late on in his residency, when both Philip and Diane were beginning to exit adolescence, the activity reached a new climactic height with Diane's long hair suddenly standing on its end, followed by her being dragged kicking and screaming up the stairs, an event that left her seriously traumatized and with clearly visible finger marks on her throat. 30 East Drive is available for overnight stays. If you're up for it,